Hello and welcome everybody to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin and Road America, Nationals Park of Speed, as we are set for the final race of the doubleheader weekend here for the Pirelli GT4 America SprintX Championship presented by Window World. This is round 14 for the National Championship, which has 2 races left after this at the season finale in Las Vegas, but it's the final round for the Eastern Regional Championship, their 10th round here at a track that has been absolutely awash often this morning, but the weather in terms of the rain has abated a bit. We just had some pretty fascinating racing unfolding in one of the other classes. We're looking forward to the same here, and it's an all-Mercedes front row, Calvin Fish.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating battle. It's the 2 cars that duked it out yesterday for the win. So let's see if Guy Cosmo can address the situation and grab that win here today. Shimshak had a great run yesterday, thwarted the challenge, and was pretty pumped to get that win. And Kenny Murillo is leading this team. His dad is at a wedding, I understand, this weekend. So is Kenny Murillo, the 22-year-old who's leading the charge on the pit box here this weekend. That's a pretty cool story.
It is indeed, and so far, so good for the young man, huh?
Certainly stepped up.
And he has, indeed. So be interesting to see how this plays out here. But you take a look as the car's rolling and the rest of the field. The top 3 cars all leading in their respective classes in either the National or the Eastern Series in terms of the qualifying run. And it's going to be fun to watch. We've seen some guys that have been very quick, a little bit deeper in the pack. I think we're in for an interesting one. And keep in mind, folks, that this is a 60-minute timed race. At the 25 minutes into 35 minutes in, there's a mandatory 10-minute pit window where you've got to do a driver change, but you don't change tires. So tire management here, especially if this track is drying, is going to be massive. And speaking of this track, Cal, let's have a look at it from your perspective.
Well, it's one of the best, certainly here in North America and globally, I feel. It's just over 4 miles with 14 very challenging turns. First sector is all about speed, coming up over the start-finish line, heading down to turn 1, and it's downhill into turn 3, heavy brake zone there. And then as you get into sector 2, which is highlighted in yellow, 2 of the most demanding corners in all of North America. The carousel corner seems to go on forever. Then when you catch your breath, well, get ready, because here comes the kink. And then down into Canada corners, we get into sector 3. Very tricky in these wet conditions. It's going to keep the drivers on their toes. But if we should get a drying line, Greg, then do you make the decision during that pit stop window to switch to the Pirelli P0 slicks? But I would have to say, from the races so far today, these wets have been doing a great job. But it is drying out just a little bit, even though we see a lot of spray there from the wheels.
Hey, you're right. They have absolutely been up to the task. But at a certain point, if it really starts to dry out, and those, one of the things that gives grip with these wet weather tires is soft compounding, and you can really damage the tires if you wait too long, yes?
You certainly can. Once you start to overheat those tread blocks, they start to move around as the track dries out, and that will just overheat them. And what feels like driving a slick tire on a wet racetrack, you then end up with driving on a drying track. It's almost the same sensation. You've got zero grip. It's not compatible any longer. It's not working, but there's still a lot of rain out there, so we'll see if it continues to dry out a little bit. As you can see, as you get over on that back section we're into right now, there's a lot of water still on this race circuit. So I think they're going to stay on the same set of tires. When do you time that pit stop window? Well, you've got to factor in who's your fastest guy behind the wheel. In these conditions, you want to get them in, keep them in as long as possible, or get them in as soon as possible.
Well, they're going to have to be shuffling all of the numbers, Cal, because we just got word from race control. This race is going to be shortened to 50 minutes. Pit window will open 20 minutes to 30 minutes in. And part of the reasoning for that, of course, is there's a live TV window for the Blancpain GT World Challenge race coming up. And with the delays from the weather this morning, have to make some adjustments to make sure that stays on schedule. So interesting times here at Road America on this Sunday, day 2 of race action for the Pirelli Challenge, the Pirelli GT4 America SprintX and Eastern Regional races presented by Window World. And as has been the case for everything this morning, just due to these wet conditions and no warm-ups, they have elected to add a second lap behind the pace car. Clock will start at the end of the first lap, but everybody getting a second lap without race level speeds and pressures to try and figure out the line around here, where there's grip, where there might be a little bit less, and adjust your driving style. But with this change in the race distance, obviously the guys on top of the pit boxes are pulling out the slide rules.
Yeah, that's for sure. And you know, essentially you should have your faster driver in to start this race today. First round of qualifying to set up the weekend. You put your lower graded driver in. They then have to start race one. Your faster or a highest graded driver would have finished off yesterday and starts this race today. So you'd have to think they're going to try and stretch it to the end of that pit stop window. But again, the race conditions, if you get a yellow, you haven't pitted yet, that can backfire on you as well. So there's a lot of permutations to figure your way through here.
And of course, you've still got some moisture on the track. You can see still a fair amount of spray coming off of these tires. And
yeah, it's really wet out there. I got deceptive picture there on the first base lap. There's still a ton of water on that race circuit.
Yeah, and we have seen that, you know, that's part of the other side of things here, isn't it? Is that we've seen it where it's abated a little bit and then it comes back with a vengeance for a little bit. So you really don't know what you're going to get here. And I'm sure all eyes are going to be very attuned to weather, apps, and radar and the like come that pit stop opportunity to say, do we want to do it, or are we looking at this rain picking up again? And we're just going to risk hanging in there.
Yes, it certainly can be a factor. I'm sure the race stewards will try to not make that, you know, decision during the point where some cars are pitted and some have not. You'd certainly want to, if you were considering that the conditions were not good, to continue. Wouldn't want to do it at a point where half the drivers have been down pit lane and served that pit stop. But conditions worse than yesterday in terms of a lot more precipitation, but at least they got a feel for the cars in terms of what the setup was needed in those conditions yesterday and could have dialed it in a bit further for today. The good news is that the forecast that was predicted last night has come true. Everyone last night at the party that we had here at the race circuit said expect rain tomorrow, and it has arrived.
As we said, this round and two more for the SprintX National Championship, the finale coming up in a few weeks in Las Vegas. The Eastern Regional boys, this is it. Game time here. And it's produced some absolutely fabulous racing. And interestingly, it's two Eastern Regional cars that fill out that front row. One of the Pro-Am cars and the other one an Am car. So they're well placed here, and certainly shows that whether you're running a regional or the national tour, they're just fast drivers here.
They are, and Fastnat and Shimshak, two of the best. They got a championship on the line here. So see if they can deliver.
Lights are out on the safety car, so anticipating that green coming out. As we said, clock has already started. This second lap now effectively just running under safety car conditions. Safety car lights out. The beautiful Acura NSX will duck into pit lane. And though the clock has started, the green flag will come out for the first time here for our Pirelli GT4 America SprintX Championship. Second race of the weekend, 14th round for the National Series, 10th for the Eastern Regional Series. All presented by Window World, and the field being led to the green by Guy Cosmo for Entech Motorsports in the Mercedes AMG GT4. Rolls into it a bit early, but the green flag was out. Oh, and a big problem right there for Jason Hart in the NOLA Sport
Just
car.
shuts down.
Yep.
Luckily, there was not contact there. I think there's some kind of technical issue for a driver and team that is very much in the championship battle. Unbelievable. But these conditions will do it. As a lot of water gets in the electronics, something has gone amiss with that NOLA Sport entry.
Fierce battle here in that G3 Ian Lacey Racing Mustang. The number 24, Nick Whitmer, who is right in the hunt for the Eastern Pro-Am Championship. Whatever it was, they got a reset done.
He may have just pulled off and got electronic reset. We saw Spencer Pampelli do that with Cayman, actually, earlier in the sprint round this morning.
Some sort of water-related issue or not, but boy, Alec Udell on the charge. He's snuck around Whitmer already, and Stephen McAleer in that blue-nosed BMW with the darker blue stripes on the outside shoulder of Whitmer. This is Carl Whitmer as he turns in. And again, these two cars, they are duking it out for that Eastern Pro-Am Championship.
Yeah, this is great. Just so many championships on the line. McAleer is certainly going to go after him here.
Up front there you see Shimshak running in second. Then here we go, Leafoge sits in that third spot. And of course, he's running in the National Pro-Am category, so they're in a pretty good little points battle as well. But all eyes here on Whitmer and McAleer right now. And a couple of cars back, see that red Panos in the hands of Matt Keegan. They're in the AM Championship. The battle for that one as well. Look at Brynjolfsson working that outside line. Excuse me, that's Trent Hinman in the brilliant yellow number 77. Remember that car?
Pulling double duty.
Yeah, exactly.
Had a class win for Alan Brynjolfsson earlier this morning because their other car got injured yesterday.
As a result, Hinman had to start in the very back and is now trying to just work his way through this field.
Look at the spray here down into Canada Corner. That's where the trees are, and the water and the mist just hangs in the air.
Looks like this moisture, this rain may have been picked up a little bit again here.
See him in there really working the rain line, as we call it, where you're as far off the dry line as you can get, just looking for the coarser piece of pavement to give some bite to those Pirelli tires.
Look at the run here now that McAleer has on Whitmer coming up the hill. This is a huge battle in terms of points. Pretty even in a straight line. McAleer trying to get a little bit of a toe. He's going to go to the outside, but now it becomes a braking duel. And for Carl Whitmer, he's not familiar with this big iron here in wet conditions. McAleer, a little more grip around the outside, slices on through. You can see a lot of cars wiggling on the exit of that corner. Let's check in with Ryan Marine.
I got the answer as far as what happened to the Noah Sport Porsche. Evidently, it's like you guys speculated. I think similar to what Spencer Pumpelly dealt with in the sprint race, where for whatever reason they just needed to recycle the electronics, and once they got through with that, everything was fine, but clearly costly there for a team that's fighting for a championship.
Yeah, without doubt, and of course part of the issue for that, you wonder if it's just sort of water related getting into the electronics. And Whitmer, that pass got him off rhythm a little bit. And the number 92 of Toby Grahovic was able to slip by. And of course, Toby doing everything he can to play wingman for McAleer.
Yeah, for sure.
Right now.
That is a big help for McAleer because that championship is really tight, just separated by a couple of points. So that is significant.
Look at the drive that Alec Udell is putting on. He has just flogged his way up through the field here, and now makes the move going around Greg Leafage in the number 19 Stephen Cameron racing car. That's for third overall. Alec Udell, of course, the first American to win a European GT4 championship, has come back stateside and is absolutely flying. He's enjoying being back where he spent a lot of time.
And I'm sure he's experienced a lot of these type of conditions over in Europe this year, on the way to winning that European GT4 championship. But great to see him back in our paddock. Certainly one of the bright young stars in our sport.
He is that, showing it in great form right now. He's teamed up with Jason Bell in the GMG Racing entry. Started this race 7th overall, and he's got it up to 3rd. But now he's got work cut out because Cosmo is checked out. He turned a 2:38.3, Cal, and he's got almost a 4.5 second lead on this guy, Shimshak, and there's Udell.
Yeah, and that's a big surprise because Shimshak was so impressive yesterday in terms of dealing with Cosmo and actually gapping him towards the checkered flag yesterday. But again, got to give it to that Rentec team, rebounding from what was a disastrous week, heading up to Watkins Glen. They had an accident with their transporter, didn't even get to the event, to come back here so impressively. Patrick Byrne put in a great run in qualifying, a great run yesterday. Cosmo grabbed the pole for today's race, and he has just taken off. That team has really put together a great program this weekend for that driving combination.
Yeah, they have indeed. And there's Udell continuing his charge, but he's got 3 seconds to make up to get to Shimshak. See whether he can make that happen here. Christian Shimshak hanging on, 2nd overall, leading in the Eastern AM category, though, and that's important, of course.
Well, I think that may be explaining why he's not chasing after Guy Cosmo. Maybe they're just in championship mode. Just bring it home, don't fight, don't take any risk, because I expected him to be able to run at the pace of Cosmo here in similar conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now, the guy that they're racing in that championship, Sean Gibbons, along with Derek DeBoer. Oh, and Hinman now coming up, trying to make a move on Grahovic. Can't quite get it done, but Gibbons has slipped back a little bit in the order, so got that amount of breathing room, and Hinman right there just ramping the outside. We've seen that outside line has just been very fast.
Yeah, and importantly, Whitmer is struggling here. He's dropping back more and more positions here, so that is significant with Mackley having a strong day. Could come down to the co-drivers. Mackley going to turn it over to Raphael. You got Drew Stavely in with Whitmer, so Stavely won a championship here yesterday. Can he win Whitmer one here today and get that Mustang back towards the big points?
Well, and that's a very good point. And for Stavely, he's run earlier in that sprint race as well, so he's got a bit more track knowledge, obviously, than Raphael would have. So it's going to be interesting to watch that dynamic play out. And I wonder if that's why maybe Whitmer is being a little bit genteel here. You know, Stavely knows how to hustle this car in the wet and wants to make sure he gives him a car capable of it.
Certainly not taking any chances, but he's dropping quite a ways back here, so you don't want to have Mackley gap you too much. Then it's going to come down to the execution of the pit stop itself. It's a 92-second pit lane delta you got to work with here in GT4 competition, and as you look at the clock, they're about 8 minutes away from that pit lane window opening.
Everything just is rushed here now with that changing that 10 minutes here. So certainly keeping things interesting. Christian Shimshak hustles through, 2nd overall, but leading in the Eastern AM category at Road America. But those 2 glowing headlights behind him is Alec Udell, who is taking chunks out in a hurry, as he has done since the drop of the green flag here. Shimshak just turned a 238 flat, Udell a 236.4, and he is making up big ground here on Shimshak. Now, Cal, Shimshak will certainly be very aware and be told as well, don't worry about Udell. He's not in your category. He's not anybody you're racing here. But I'm just impressed with the pace of Alec.
Well, there's not many races he doesn't impress, because you expect him to run really quick. And I think he may have an easier road of it than normal Christian Shimshak, because I just think that Shimshak has got his championship hat on right now and is not going to want to get into any battles whatsoever. They've got a big margin right now over Sean Gibbons in the points as they run of now, but they can't afford to have any mistakes or not score here today.
Yeah, good point. Watching behind them, we're seeing Hinman has quickly run down McAleer. That is a battle in the division for the Eastern Pro-Am, and that has points implications. And Hinman and his co-driver Brynjolfsson understand what they need to do here after the incident yesterday and the lack of points. They've got to earn a bunch.
They do. I think it's almost impossible for them to take the title now. It really comes down to Maculaire Raphael against Whitmer, but
they're not going to go down without a fight.
No, and they also got another agenda as we've discussed earlier today, is that Alan Brynjolfsson is in the fight for the Global Porsche Cup at the end of the year, so he wants to score as many points as he can.
It's an interesting little championship, if you will, for that Porsche Cup. It's the most prolific Porsche racer globally during a given year, as in terms of it combines how many races you've run and then how well you finish in those races. And he's got a shot at it here. And Udell taking a look at Shimshak down into Canada corner.
And I think what the defining moment in this race will be for some of the championship contenders is the 75% mark. Once you get to that, you will score points as long as you're in the top 10. Of course, we only score points down to the top 10. So I think for Shimshak and his teammate, they're going to be focused on that, which is a bit of a weird number, but I think it's 37.5 minutes into this 50-minute race.
Up the hill we go. There's Guy Cosmo, leader now. Well, last time he was knocking on the door of a 10-second lead over the rest of the field, and as Shimshak pops through, he's got it. It's 10 seconds exactly, but here comes Udell. Huge run to the inside. As you said, I think Shimshak's not going to fight him too hard here.
No, just let him go.
Yep, smart, savvy.
I'm sure there was a lot of discussion amongst the championship contenders about the what ifs during today's race. What do we do with the setup? How much do we gamble? Do we factor in it's definitely going to be wet? That's where it gets tricky. Some of these setup changes take a while, so you can't just suddenly do it at the last moment. You almost make those decisions a few hours before you get to green flag time. But the nice thing is the weather forecast was accurate and consistent rain here today.
At this stage, Cal, I'm not really seeing any kind of a dry line starting to develop. There's still moisture coming down, and that keeps things consistent for these drivers, doesn't it?
It does. You're still going to search for a little bit of water if you get too much of a dry line. You don't want to overheat those tread blocks on the wet weather tires, otherwise that will give you some issues. But I think, yeah, you're seeing guys still trying to figure out the best way around. They'll have looked at earlier races, seeing where guys were being effective in terms of their performance, which corners will give you a bit more bite by running off the dry line, which other corners you're compromising your line and not gaining much. So there's a real learning process going on for the drivers, even after a few laps underneath their belt.
Hinman is through on McAleer, which will be some good news to the Stavely-Whitmer combo. Slides through, picks up those points. Now keep in mind, Cosmo is running in that category as well, so he's taking the big points away from everybody up front. See Hinman now going after Lafarge.
Yeah, that's a great point. Cosmo will take the big points potentially if Patrick Byrne can follow up and keep the lead, of course. Long way to go in this race, but it's pretty much mano a mano between McAleer, Raphael, and Whitmer. A couple of points in it coming into the race. So it's a question of beating the other guy.
Hinman through, and Lafarge quickly gaps him. Trent is on the charge, isn't he?
He really is.
Flying around here, running laps second quicker than anybody around him.
Cosmo still stretching his gap, 10.5 seconds last time across the stripe as he sets a new fastest lap of this race at a 2:35.5. But Alec Udell only a couple of 3/10 behind that mark.
Hinman just going to 2:35.7. So yeah, those Cosmo, Udell, Hinman right now comfortably the fastest cars on the track. You wonder how many of these drivers and these teams had their eyes glued to TV monitors watching the coverage on their computers of the previous races, looking at where are those guys finding grip. I mean, that's, you got to play that game, don't you?
You do. There's some corners there doesn't seem to be much in it. We've seen guys who go side by side into brake zones where you'd think middle of the road would be better, and the guy on the outside is able to brake as deep. And then there's other corners when you're running that rim shot, is giving you a bit more bite. Up front, Cosmo looking strong. This is a driver pairing that's had a lot of success on the global stage as well as here in North America.
He and Patrick have been superb running internationally, and it's nice to have them home. And right now, Guy Cosmo has Rentec and the Mercedes-AMG GT4 out front. Kind of eyeballing how things are unfolding. The National Pro-Am leader right now would be Udell. Looking for the AM leader, and that is Keegan right now. He's got a couple of cars between himself and John Allen, but Allen doing a pretty decent job, and Keegan sits in the 11th spot overall, just to put a reference on it. Allen in the 14th. But if Allen can stay on the same lap as Keegan, we put Chris Wilson in. Well, Chris had an overall pole for yesterday's race. He is wickedly fast.
He was so impressive in the wet conditions yesterday, Chris Wilson. So, but it's blown out a little bit in that points chase. There's 33 points right now. So I don't think anyone's going to clinch anything today. But certainly for Chris Wilson and John Allen, they're going to try and reduce that margin before we head west to Vegas.
Matt Keegan in the Panos continues to lead in the National AM Championship here in the Pirelli GT4 SprintX Series, running 11th overall right now. And that is mission accomplished at this stage of the race, obviously, as he is the leader in the AM category, along with his co-driver, Preston Calvert. And we have hit the pit window open in this race, reduced from 60 to 50 minutes, so the window opens a few minutes earlier than usual. And first driver in is Whitmer, and this is a smart move. You know, Drew Stavely is very comfortable with this car in the wet, unfamiliar to Carl. Savvy move by Carl and the team.
Yeah, well, Stavely's even driven in these conditions today in the earlier sprint round, so he should be up on the wheel immediately, and it's going to be really nip and tuck for this championship.
It is close coming in, so we'll keep an eye. Again, they give them a bit of time to get this driver change done. Don't see any tires on the wall either, and look at Drew, he is ready.
He's pumped and ready to go. Can he clinch a championship for Whitmer here? He's got to get around the Maclear Raphael car. He's got to beat them. If they finish behind, it's not going to be enough.
Not going to be enough. All right. Working on those belts. Everything else you need to plug in, radios, drinks bottle, etc.
Tire pressure check done. Allowed to do that. Should be plenty of time to work with. Just got to stay calm and patient and just go through your normal routine. You start to fumble and the panic kicks in.
Yeah.
Even with plenty of time to work with, that can cost you. See how close they can get it here. Stavely's underway.
Allen is in as well. Gibbons is in.
So they left 4 seconds on the table there. It's not probably as sharp as you want to be.
No.
You don't want to run afoul of the rule, but certainly leaving a lot on the table now. So Hinman has caught Shimshak here. Going for Shimshak, probably not going to fight him.
Yeah, got to be smart at this stage, and Hinman willing to use that outside rain line and just ramp it and carry some speed here. And interestingly, it looked to me for the Ian Lacey crew, the car came down and then sat for a little bit. Not a lot of time, but a little bit. So a little late maybe on just waving them out.
Well, you don't want it to cut it so close. You drive down pit lane, it costs you 46 seconds. So you have a 1 second joker to work with. So they definitely left a handful of seconds on the table there as Hinman makes that move to the outside. Expect Christian just to ease out of it as he does and just give him the position. Again, we're getting back to the point to score points in this race. You got to do 75% of the race distance. Shimshak has the lead in this championship. Just needs to keep doing what he's doing.
Young Kenny Murillo, who you had mentioned it as the gentleman on the wall here, and managing this, and he's a very savvy racer as well, so you know he's providing information to Christian.
That helps a lot. He works with the data. He's driven the car this year. This weekend he's been given the big shoes to fill of his dad, who's unable to be here this weekend, and so far so good, taking the victory here yesterday.
Boy, the Allen to Wilson turnover, looks like they came up short, Cal. And if they do, that means a drive-through.
It does, because they're over a second. You only get a 1 second joker, and they're 1.3 under at a 90.7. So I'm pretty sure that's going to mean a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, best stop so far is Gibbons turning over to DeBoer right at 93.8.
So Sean did everything he could there, just keeping it clean, keeping the car on the island. No mistakes. That's the sort of season he's put together. Started the year off with a win at Circuit of the Americas and has just been in that championship hunt all season long. Lost the lead after yesterday's race, but still has an outside chance at that championship.
Cosmo up front, continuing to keep that margin. He got it up to about 10.5 seconds, and it's just sort of stayed there. He's managing it absolutely beautifully right now. And then sitting in the second and third spot, Alec Udell in the blue number 2 Porsche, 77 Trent Hinman, and that yellow number 3 Porsche, running pretty identical lap times as well.
Cosmo is in, so they don't stretch it too far. Cosmo should have a little bit more speed than his teammate Patrick Byrne in terms of the experience factor, and Guy's definitely one of the best in the business as well. So they could have run another 5 minutes before getting him out, but just want to play it safe in case there's a caution or something and lose the advantage that they've built.
Certainly ample opportunity for cautions in these conditions, so I think you always give it that little extra buffer, don't you? Let's bring that Torxen Mercedes in. There's a look at Alec Udell.
For this team, GMG, will they roll the dice a bit further? Here comes Patrick Byrne.
Let's check in with Ryan.
This has been a really good pairing here this weekend. Both Patrick Byrne and Guy Cosmo, who of course have a lot of experience actually in other championships racing together. They've won championships together, but this situation with Rentec has proven to be quite fruitful right now. Guy Cosmo very, very good in that stint in the wet. Patrick Byrne getting behind the wheel next, and it looks like a pretty solid stop here and a good exchange because they're holding the car. And that's usually a good sign because they want to make sure you want to have that driver change done in plenty of time, and it seems like they did.
This is interesting here, that little bit of an overlap, and by rule, it's the outside lane that gets preference, and Byrne understands that, tucks right in behind.
Shimshak's in. Matt Fastnart getting behind the wheel of that Murillo racing machine, and Byrne is on his way. Looking at the time, 95.1, so again, giving themselves plenty of margin there, just over 3 seconds outside of the minimum.
All right, with Shimshak in, we'll take a look and see what kind of numbers they put up here. And that should promote Alec Udell into the lead. There's Hinman sitting in the second spot. An okay stop for Shimshak, turning over to Fastnat.
Hinman's flying now, new fastest lap of the race at 2:34.2. Gap to the front is just under 5 seconds.
Udell, that Ceramic Pro entry from Global Motorsports Group. We'll be turning over to Jason Bell.
Probably come in this lap. The problem with stretching it any further, be really tight to making it because the lap times are above 2:30-ish. So
here he comes, spot on.
Got to come, and Hinman should come as well.
Well, this will be an interesting little heads-up battle between the teams to get these changes done well.
Park Place versus GMG. Who cuts the margins the closest?
Wow. Dynan turning over, Foley turning over to Dynan. That's about as good as it gets. 92.4.
Yeah, you'd expect that from Jim Bell and the Flying Lizard team.
You bet. These
They're
guys
specialists.
These guys have been dueling it out here right before the pit stop, running together in lockstep. Steve Cameron, BMW, the classic BMW. And now see Patrick Byrne. It's going to take him a couple of laps to just find out exactly where the grip is and what to deal with here.
Yeah, just feeling it out. You can see there's a bit of a dry line emerging. But for Patrick Byrne, it's just treading carefully. But the problem is if you go too easy, you lose a lot of your tire temperature. Then the car doesn't feel good, and it stops you from like building that speed up.
All right.
Quinlan has really been finding some confidence and some form of late, so he's now going to jump in and try and consolidate their lead, which sits at 11 points over Travis and Hart, who have not had the best start to the day, had to do that reset.
Oh! I don't think that, all right. Nice recovery by Jason. Recognizing that that door wasn't quite shut as he was released.
He's got to kill a lot of time. They've gone way early here, it looks like to me.
Oh boy, yeah, huge.
There's
there
some
it is.
miscommunication went on there.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, they made it work out okay.
Okay.
And look at Hinman now.
34.4. Actually, I was looking at the wrong ticker there, so.
And of course, one of the big stories we need to be looking at here is where is Stavely at this point relative to Raphael when everything cycles through.
Yep, only got 15 seconds left on the board. If anyone hasn't hit pit lane, they better do it in a hurry.
Yeah, exactly.
So pretty even pit stops there. It's about the same gap. They both did 94-second stops there.
So now Jason Bell has to figure out a way to hold off Alan Brynjolfsson, who's already been on this track in similar conditions to this earlier today. All right, up through. Oh, Bell just a little bit wide there. Again, just didn't have a sense of where that grip is.
The irony is that these two drivers had a bit of an incident here last year.
Yes, they did.
Going up into turn 6. So there's a change of position there on the exit of turn 6. So that's a certain irony there. One year later.
Yeah, that was quite the moment, certainly. But now Brynjolfsson, and again, it just pays huge dividends to have raced out there already once today, and the other guys without a warm-up. They're just getting in literally cold.
Yep, and the pressure's on. You're in the middle of the race versus starting the race and feeling like you could feel your way into it. You're immediately thrown in there and you've got to get up to speed quickly. And Brynjolfsson, that bright yellow car, you're not going to miss it in your mirrors, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And you just need to take a lap or two and get comfortable with where the grip is. Then you can start to push the envelope just a little bit. A lot there, but you know, sometimes you make that little mistake, Cal, and you run wide and you go, oh, here's where the grip is.
This is a battle for position here,
yes,
I believe. So Byrne was a little bit conservative on his out laps compared to Alec Udell's in laps, and has given the GMG the track position over the Ren Tech Motorsports AMG Mercedes.
Up the hill we go. So Brynjolfsson should be assuming the overall race lead, and he does. Here comes Byrne. And Byrne, of course, running in the Eastern Pro-Am Championship, Bell in the National Pro-Am Championship, but they're both Pro-Am cars. Well, look at Bell fighting back around the outside.
Patrick didn't want to overcommit down to the inside and risk any contact there, so being a little bit conservative. Now he gets alongside him, but again, gives it up. Jason now starting to find his feet a little bit and find a rhythm and find the grip in the racetrack.
And of course, on the radio with a co-driver who will be telling him, you know, this spot, you want to run the outside. That's where the grip is. You never stop coaching them up, do you?
You don't. As soon as they get out of the car, the pro will be on that radio, just talking them through each individual corner. Some drivers like that. Some people just want to be left alone, AKA Kimi Räikkönen.
Battle at the sharp end of the field. Intriguing here in these damp conditions at Road America. Up front, Alan Brynjolfsson taking that bright yellow 77 Volt Lighting Park Place Porsche out into a lead after working through on Jason Bell, and Jason Bell having a good scrap with Patrick Byrne. Let's go back and take a look at moment up into turn 6, which is a tricky enough corner generally, and Bell just overran it.
Yeah, just got in there a little bit deep. Can't get the car turned. Then you just got to ease it back onto the racetrack without damaging that front splitter. So it was his out lap, just couldn't quite get the conditions underneath him, but he's recovered nicely. He's found a good groove right now and doing a really nice job, Jason Bell.
Yeah, keeping Patrick Byrne behind him, coming up behind those two now. The leader of the Eastern AM category, Matt Fosnot, the number 34 Murillo Fuji Mercedes, right there. And he is he's turning some awfully good laps and closing them up in a hurry here.
Car number 2 pit stops under investigation. I think that's because of the door situation. I would imagine they saw that as well.
Yeah, good point. Now Fosnot has caught them, but it's a whole different deal, especially two cars that are battling a little bit. In these conditions, you got to be very careful.
And again, he's thinking championship.
Yes.
I really feel, I'm pretty certain that once they get to about 12 minutes to go, he's good for the 75% rule in terms of scoring points, and that may unleash the reins a little bit on Matt Fosnot.
Yeah, that's the issue here. It looked like the car moved a little bit, then stopped. They thought it was done. Right as he left again, the door was still open.
Well, there's probably two things going on there. You know, Jason Bell's trying to deal with it. He sees the mechanic trying to get the door shut, and in the meantime, in his head, he's hearing someone say, go, 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 because you're going to waste time with regards to that pit lane delta time.
Tell you, I'm impressed with what I'm seeing from Jason Bell here.
Settled in nicely, hasn't he?
Yes, he has. We saw a great run by Patrick Byrne yesterday and a fabulous run by Fosnat and Shimshak. And Bell has found that groove just a little bit and is looking pretty stout.
Now Fosnat's come alive. Stuffs it down the inside, as I'm saying. He's going to be conservative for another couple of minutes.
Bell's last lap was a low 2:43, same for Byrne. Fosnat a little bit quicker, which is evident here.
Yeah, and that's comparing with best of Trent Hinman today, about a 2:34. So there's a few seconds left on the table here right now. I don't think the conditions have gotten any worse. Rain has definitely lightened it a little bit over the course of the last hour or so.
Bell very comfortable running that rim shot around the outside here. We'll see what kind of drive off the corner Fosnat gets. I don't think you're ever going to try much going into the kink here, but give yourself some room to get a run and then do something down in the Canada, maybe.
Yeah, I think Matt's suddenly got to that point in the race where he's starting to go. I think they've unleashed him a little bit.
Bell defending a little bit going in.
Well, the difficulty for the race stewards,
exit, didn't it? Here we go.
Difficulty for the race stewards is when you change your line like that, is it you're defending or are you just looking for the grip?
Yes, exactly.
So you got to be careful with the language and the dynamic of that as to when it's occurring. You suddenly got someone looking to the inside and you dive over and take that piece of road, they can interpret that as blocking.
Bell's pitting.
I wonder if he's drive-through penalty for that pit stop infraction, I believe.
There you go.
Oh, that's so disappointing.
Absolutely.
Great run by Alec Udell, and Jason had settled in nicely. It's the little things that can steal away.
Exactly.
The victory is amazing. Fosnat's definitely on it now.
A lot of ground to make up if he's thinking overall win, as Brynjolfsson's off to 12.8 seconds.
75% progress, our timing and scoring is saying that's the point where you score today. So for Matt Fosnat, he's in great shape for this championship.
And Drew Stavely right now is 0.07 of a second behind Raphael. That is huge for the Eastern Pro Championship.
It is really close. They're separated by just 1 point right now, and the advantage is Raphael with the track position. So if Stavely can get around Raphael, that'll reverse that swing, and that'll put Whitmer in the catbird seat for the championship.
I think we just saw he got him.
He's got him.
That was a very, very unselfish display by Whitmer, who said, you know, on this day in these conditions, Drew's going to be certainly quicker than I am. I'm out. Get in there and do the job. And Drew has gone around Raphael. This is huge.
This is huge. Huge for that team. G3 and Lacey Racing secured a second AM-class win championship for Drew Stavely here yesterday. And they haven't gone the whole distance with Whitmer, but certainly assisted him from mid-season on. And if Stavely can maintain this position, that will give Whitmer the championship.
That's somewhat of a Cinderella story with the way the season has unfolded for Carl and this program. Up front, meanwhile, the 77, Brynjolfsson, just continuing to throw down some pretty effective laps relative to everybody else. He's consistently been a second or so quicker.
Big day for him potentially in those Porsche Cup points. Had a win in the sprint race earlier today, and he and Trent may follow up with another one. Driving very well.
Yeah, he is. He is. There's Chris Wilson behind him, who is an extremely quick driver.
It's a lap down, however.
Yep. And I wonder, I would have expected them to get a drive-through because they were a few seconds short on that time. Ooh, that was different. Was that, did he lock up a little bit in the car skate, or was he just?
Times have definitely improved for this group. Fastnart 2:39, which is getting down close to what Shimshak ran earlier in this race. Byrne doing a really nice job as well, matching Fastnart's time.
Let's check in with Ryan down in pit lane.
Well, guys, I wanted to see just how Carl Whitmer was feeling about this, all the developments happening with his championship, which was on life support. If you go back to the CTMP weekend, I asked if he would have a moment or two to chat, and he said, you know what, let's wait 9 minutes. He's as nervous as they come right now. You could tell it was all well-spirited for sure. He certainly wasn't trying to be rude or anything like that, but he's awfully nervous right now. He wants to wait and make sure this thing's all sealed up before he can tell us how he's feeling about everything. I think it's going to be a fun interview post-race if things hold.
I think so too, and an emotional one as well. Again, if you're not familiar with the story, going up to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, leading in the championship, and the precision driving tech team of Marco Radicic, due to some documentation issues, couldn't get into the country. And G3 Racing and Ian Lacey and Frank Gannett said, well, let's enter you in my car. We'll make a last-minute entry here, and we're going to see if we can get you some points. And they put in such an impressive show. Ford even got into the mix a little bit and said, let's pursue this, see what we can make happen. Marco gave him the absolute go-ahead. And at this stage, a nervous Whitmer, but obviously Drew Stavely doing a beautiful job right now.
Oh, big day for that young man, Whitmer, and in his driving career. And you can see he's nervous, and I totally respect the fact he didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to jinx anything. Just settle in, and it's going to be the longest 7.5 minutes of his life from a racing perspective.
Alan Brynjolfsson continuing to stretch his lead, almost 15 seconds last time by as he came through start-finish in that brilliant yellow liveried Volt lighting, Park Place Porsche. As he heads down into turn 1, keep an eye on and see if he's stretched that margin, or if Matt Fastnart in the, no, he has stretched it again to almost just a tick over 16 seconds. Brynjolfsson is in the groove today.
He is. He's driving superbly well, and I think it's helped a little bit by the fact that some of these others got the big picture of the championship on their mind, so they're maybe not executing to 100% in terms of the speed potential, but that's taken nothing away from this Park Place team, from Trent Hinman's early stint, and what Alan Brynjolfsson is following up with here.
As we're watching this Porsche, great recovery by another Porsche, the 47 Vest Energy Group NOLA Sport Porsche of Travis and Hart. Travis has hauled that up into 4th overall. That's back in on top of the National Pro-Am Championship. And that's huge for them, too. I mean, they started the year off, looked untouchable, and then it's just all come unglued, and they needed this. Remember, he had that problem right at the start of this race. Had to do a reset, drop to the back of the field.
Started the year 5 straight victories, had a comfortable margin. It's just been erased over the last couple of race weekends. Came into today's race 11 points behind, but right now the way they sit, that margin would be down to 4 as we head west of Vegas.
That's incredibly close, and the guy who's racing for the championship is looking at him, but recognizing he's 11 seconds up the road, and at this stage running just a bit quicker, so Sean Quinlan kind of find it a little bit here. This is a fun little scrap. They're not in the same class. Fastnart in the orange Fuji Murillo Racing Mercedes is in the Eastern Am category, and Byrne, along with Cosmo, running the Eastern Pro-Am.
And I'm sure their engineers and team managers, Greg, are reminding them of that fact.
Yes, exactly.
Don't get too wrapped up in the guy you're racing around right now. We're running for a different set of points today.
We're coming up on the 5-minute to go mark. Here once again, this 14th round of the Pirelli GT4 America's SprintX National Championship. Big wiggle by Fastnart.
Yeah, I think he got into the ABS there and then just dove for the apex to try and sort it out. GT4 cars have ABS braking systems to assist in tricky conditions like this, but this has given Byrne the incentive.
And again, as you point out, I think for Fosnot, if Byrne gets really aggressive, let him through, right?
Yep,
you got it.
Let him go.
Yeah, everybody behind Fosnot right now, well down the order, are not potential points players, and they love going for their overall wins, but championships tend to be a little bit more important than that. Derek DeBoer now behind the wheel of the number 17 Pastime TRG Fast Life TV Porsche, but just hasn't been able to quite dig himself out of a little bit of a hole here, down the order quite a bit.
Yeah, but he loves this racetrack.
Yes.
Had a sensational weekend here. I think it was 2 years ago where he had the big win. And Derek and his family are here this weekend, always giving it 100%. Love their racing. And you give Derek the tools and the opportunity, he will certainly get the job done.
And interestingly, he's running laps, Derek is right now, that are virtually matching on occasion Fosnot. So he's got the speed. It's just a matter of track position.
Yeah, and I think for everyone, they were expected a yellow flag here today. I think everyone's driven extremely well. And again, I think the Pirelli P0s have really shone here today in the wet because the cars seem to be really okay to drive. It's not undrivable conditions, and that comes down to what the tire's giving you in the form of the grip.
We're definitely starting to see, I wouldn't yet call it a dry line, but it's a much less wet line through parts of this track. And everybody just trying to keep these tires alive. And you're right, I think, especially in the deluge conditions we had earlier, these Pirelli P0s have been up to it.
And I think we got fortunate, Greg, that rain did not continue, because at one point I thought we were going to what I call lose the racetrack, because you lose the drainage, it just becomes so saturated that the water runoff has nowhere to go, and then it just stays on the racetrack, kind of accumulates around some of the apexes and the curbs. But with it lightning, certainly allowing us to get this race in, and it should have set up nicely for the races a little bit later this afternoon.
Absolutely, and looks to me like probably Byrne will complete this lap, probably get the, well, maybe not. We may have 2 more laps to go after this.
I don't think so. He should get the white flag this go. His lap time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep, running 2:30s. So we'll watch for start finish for absolute confirmation, but yes, you're absolutely right. And it does come out. 1 to go.
Superb run here.
Yeah.
Just grab that lead and just hitting his marks. We've really seen Alan progress nicely over the last 2 or 3 years. Was always brave, always had good car control, but now he's really learning racecraft and adapting to different conditions like we're seeing today superbly well.
Look at this little scrap here. Fosnot is still able to fend off Byrne. Apparently Matt doesn't feel overly threatened at this point.
Yeah, he's a little twitch. Yeah, he's struggling with the brakes here. I'm not sure what's going on, but he doesn't seem happy.
Yeah.
The car doesn't look happy, and I'm sure that's not making Matt happy inside there behind the wheel.
And Travis sits in that 4th spot, leading in the National Pro-Am in front of the competition of Sean Quinlan. And then Stavely, as he got around Raphael, he's been able to open up a little bit of a buffer here. And that's big as well for his teammate, as we've talked about, Carl Whitmer, who is racing Raphael and McAleer.
Yeah, it's going to give Whitman the title. These championships get concluded here at the end of this lap. Fosnot and Shimshak looking good for their victory. Brynjolfsson bringing it home, just dancing on the throttle through there, just finding the grip.
And you wonder, he's got a huge lead. Why are you pushing so hard? Well, because you found that groove, and you start trying to adjust to that sometimes, and you make a little mistake, get off line just a little bit. You make no mistake, you get off of that dry-ish line here, and you're carrying speed for that line. You get into a much wetter part of the track, it's going to get interesting. This isn't over yet, is it?
No, it looks like Patrick has still got his sights set on that overall position. See what Matt can deal with the brakes down into Canada. We saw him struggle a little bit last time into that corner, as we now focus on Brynjolfsson taking it to the checkers.
And talk about redemption after ending up in the wall yesterday with that contact in the SprintX race, to come back, win the AM category of the sprint race this morning, and win overall and the Eastern Pro-Am here with teammate Trent Hinman. It is Park Place Porsche and Volt Lighting that come through. Great drive by both. Trent Hinman was a rocket ship early in that race, Cal bringing it up to the front, and then Brynjolfsson brought it home in exquisite form.
He did. Just great execution, more big points, and it's like Fastnart's in good shape here.
Yeah, Byrne giving it a thought.
Close.
Oh, look at that. 23 1/1000ths of a second.
Nearly pulled the lead diffie there.
Sure did. But a nice run, and then here, the Cinderella story, perhaps coming to fruition. If Stavely could bring it up the hill, will be a championship for his teammate Carl Whitmer between two different teams. Big moment during the season to have to move to this team, and they accomplished the feat. What a story.
There he is on the pit wall celebrating.
Yep, that blue suit you can see over there, I'm sure. Wow, just an incredible year on so many different levels. And for Carl Whitmer, the emotional roller coaster has finally come to a conclusion, and in the best possible form. And they put it in good hands, and this goes right back to Frank Gannett and Ian Lacey. Frank, being the humble man and classic man he is, saying, I don't have Drew's pace. Let's put Drew in, see if we can bring this one home for you. And they did.
And the third championship for G3 and Ian Lacey Racing in the last 24 months.
You bet. All right, great stuff here at Road America. I'm mightily impressed here with what Mr. Brynjolfsson has done when he took over. I mean, you look at the lap times that he's been turning. Some awfully good drivers in this field, and he's been running some of the absolute fastest laps on the track.
He did. His last lap was 2 or 3 seconds quicker than anyone else on the racetrack at the same time. So he was in the groove, and once you feel comfortable, and as I say, once you can load the tire, that kind of, the car comes more to you.
Yeah,
you're keeping that tire temperature up, and if you're tiptoeing around and you don't have the confidence, the car's going to feel worse and worse, and it goes in the other direction for Alan Brynjolfsson.
Well, he is of Icelandic heritage, and there was a snowmobile racer named Lexi Kerrison that I announced for many years and nicknamed him the Icelandic Assassin. I think Brynjolfsson may have just earned that nickname here. What a drive he put on. He was killing it.
He'll take it.
All right, heading toward the Victory Circle staging area. Well, the Icelandic assassin, Alan Brynjolfsson, crawls out from that bright yellow Volt Lighting Porsche and is absolutely delighted. And Chris Wilson comes over, gives him a big handshake. Chris, an awfully talented driver, and Brynjolfsson was running laps as fast as Chris was. Tell you what, Ryan, this may have been a breakout weekend for Mr. Brynjolfsson.
It sure looked that way. The guys in the booth said, hey, this might be your breakout weekend. Do you feel it that way?
I love Road America. I love driving in the rain with this Porsche. It's really balanced, easy to do. I think it's one of my fortes, so I just had an exciting weekend. It was great redemption today.
You told me before the race started, I saw you on pit lane. You were out there in the sprint race in the wet, so you had a little bit of an idea of what track conditions might be like. How much of a benefit was that?
It was definitely very helpful to have the experience. I had another race, another series at this track that was in the rain, so I relatively speaking, have some good experience in the rain at this track. It was very helpful, came in handy.
Fantastic job today, congratulations.
Thanks, Ryan.
And he talked about that redemption. We talked about the incident he was in yesterday, and to come back with 2 wins today, one of them an overall.
Right.
That's impressive.
Really, really strong day.
Taking a look at the results here, and you can see the lineups, and as you go down that second group, the Fosnot Shimshak team, great day for them, second overall, winning their category and championship.
Yeah, big day, big weekend, and perfectly managed. We expected Shimshak to give Cosmo a run at the beginning, but I think they discussed it. They knew what their game plan was. Keep it clean, keep it safe, get to the 75% mark, score points, and grab that championship title.
And let's get right back down to Ryan. And speaking of champions.
Yeah, our happy champion, Carl Whitmer. You had us wait around. I know you were on the edge of your seat. Take us through those final few laps watching as your championship was in someone else's hands.
Yeah, it was intense. I mean, those longest 16 minutes of my life, really. I pitted in. I had a decent stint. I still wasn't comfortable in the rain. And Drew, man, he went to work. These guys at Ian Lacey, at G3 Racing, Ford Performance, gave us a perfect car. And, you know, it's rewarding for me. And it's also rewarding for everybody on the team. So,
Drew, we'll have you sneak in as well, if you don't mind. You get the call up to help Carl win a championship this weekend, and it comes down to your stint, the pass that you made on track. How gratifying was that to deliver a championship to a friend and a colleague?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, that was our goal for the weekend, is tie up the championship for Carl. And I'll tell you what, I was more nervous leading his championship than mine. I was like, the last lap, I'm like, oh, don't mess this up, don't mess this up, you know. So once again, couldn't thank Ford and all the G3 Ian Lacey guys enough. It's an awesome weekend, and can't wait for the next race.
A couple of champions down here, guys. Carl Whitmer and Drew Stavely.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think just a huge shout out to Ian and especially Frank Gannett, who said, you know, we're going to make this happen for you. And they followed through and brought that championship
Great
home.
story, and it came to a great conclusion here today.
It sure did. And under trying conditions at the start, Guy Cosmo got to the lead, and he had that inside pole position and took off. Whitmer fighting hard against some of the competition he was going to be dealing with, but didn't have a lot of experience in the wet, as he said, in a rear-wheel drive car, and faded just a little bit. That number 2 Porsche was one of the stars early. Alec Udell just rocketing through the field at the front.
Cut his way through the field very nicely and turned it over to his teammate Jason Bell. Unfortunately, they had to suffer a drive-through penalty for a pit stop infraction, but nonetheless a very strong day for GMG.
Right there, that was the battle in the early going. Whitmer and McAleer working the outside, and it was whoever really finished in front in this one was going to get that championship. They were aware of it. And Udell got to the front, turned it over to Bell. Bell running a little wide, and Brynjolfsson shot through into the lead, and he just drove brilliantly all the way to the finish. The Eastern Regional Championships are decided, but the Pirelli GT4 America's SprintX National Championship, 2 rounds yet to go in Las Vegas. Come play with us.